By the end of this video, you will be able to describe 2 types of engagement, describe 3 ways to engage learners, define learning and instruction, and describe how we learn. First, a quick review. There are 3 types of learning goals: inform, perform procedural tasks, and perform strategic tasks. Inform are lessons that communicate information. An example of this is presenting new information, like what is TPAC. Perform procedural tasks are lessons that build procedural skills to promote near transfer. These are step-by-step actions that are similar each time. For example, how-to videos like how to use the TPAC model. Perform strategic tasks are lessons that build strategic skills to promote far transfer. These tasks do not have one correct approach or outcome. For example, high-order skills like analyzing and creating lessons utilizing TPAC. All learning requires engagement. There are 2 types of engagement: behavioral and psychological engagement. Behavioral engagement are overt actions a learner takes. For example, selecting a start button on a video, typing or verbally responding to an answer, and selecting an option from a multiple choice quiz. Psychological engagement are cognitive processes of content in ways that lead to acquisition of new knowledge. For example, mentally organizing the information and connecting new information to prior knowledge. From these 2 types of engagement, there are 3 ways to engage students: receptive, directive, and guided discovery. Receptive is when the learner acquires new information through presentation. This involves low behavioral engagement, so there is a need for high psychological engagement like visuals and examples. Directive is when the learner is guided through the new information through resources, practice, or guided activities, and space for questions and feedback. Directive lessons include more behavioral engagement, but may not include a lot of psychological engagement. Guided discovery is when learners perform tasks while receiving guidance and feedback. Think games and simulations. These guided discovery lessons impose more mental load, but do engage learners both behaviorally and psychologically. So in designing learning, we need to think about the learning goals: inform, perform procedural, and perform strategic. The type of engagement, behavioral and psychological, and the ways to engage students: receptive, directive, and guided discovery. But when considering these items, we also want to consider how people learn. First, what is learning? Learning is the change in the learner's knowledge due to experience. Since we can't see change in someone's knowledge, the psychological engagement, we observe their change in behavior. As educators, we use instruction to support this change in the learner's knowledge. So what is instruction? Instruction is the manipulation of the learner's experience to foster learning. Through instruction, we engage students through receptive, directive, and guided discovery lessons. So what are some of the things we need to consider when designing this instruction? Let's start with how our brain works. Before we dive into our brains, though, there are a few types of learning we need to review: behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism. Behaviorism focuses on strengthening correct responses and weakening incorrect responses through rewards and punishments. In behaviorism, the learner is passive recipient and the instructor dispenses the rewards and punishments. This is commonly seen in classroom management and classroom or school procedures where there are rewards and consequences for certain actions. Cognitivism focuses on adding information to memory, where the learner is a passive recipient and the instructor dispenses the information. The learner also learns from feedback, both from the instructor and environmental. This is commonly seen in lecture-type instruction where applications such as discussion forums and papers. Constructivism focuses on knowledge construction, where the learners are active sense makers and the instructor is the cognitive guide. This is commonly seen in hands-on learning and project-based learning. In constructivism, lectures and displays of information, as well as rewards and consequences for behaviors, can be included, but the main process of learning is focused on the students connecting their new learning to prior knowledge through appropriate cognitive processing. Now you may be asking, how does this connect back to how our brains work? As we proceed, we are going to focus on constructivism and how to develop multimedia resources to support learning through knowledge construction. This topic has been thoroughly researched and is now called Cognitive Theory of Multimedia Learning and focuses on how people learn with multimedia products. In the next video, we will explore this cognitive theory of multimedia learning.